shipped a digital product and wonder why nobody was using it? You built it, you tested, it worked, and then you launched and the silence was defeating. Hi, my name is Nadia. I'm a product design strategist with over 10 years of experience, and I'm the founder of Sugarbeet Studios. If that sounds familiar, I want to talk to you about something most founders do not think about until it's too late. When to bring a product designer into the process, and more importantly, what it costs when you wait too long. Here's the default founder mindset when starting a product. You have an idea, you need someone to build it, so you hire a developer and start building yourself with AI. That makes little sense. You need something to exist before you can show it to anyone. But here's the thing most founders do not realize. Development and design are not the same thing. And treating design as something you add later, once the product is built, is one of the most expensive mistakes you can make in product development. Most companies are development first. That means engineers build the product, it ships, and then someone looks at it and says it needs to look better or it needs to be easier to use. Design becomes a coat of paint on top of something that was never designed to be used well in the first place. This doesn't just happen at scrappy startups. It happens at some of the biggest companies in the world. Let me talk about Amazon for a second. Amazon is one of the most successful companies ever built. And it's also one of the most obvious examples of what happens when development leads and design follows. If you have ever shopped on Amazon, you know what I mean. The interface is dense, cluttered, and overwhelming. There are buttons that look different depending on which page you're on. There are sections that feel like they were built by completely different teams with no shared design system, because they were. Look at the product pages, the sponsored listings pushing past the actual best results. The real customer reviews buried under layers of content designed to sell you something else first. None of it feels cohesive. None of it looks like it was designed by people who sat in a room together and agreed what buttons should look like. The components are inconsistent. The visual hierarchy is all over the place. There's no sense of a unified design language. Here's the interesting part though. Amazon is not neglecting design. They employ entire teams of UX designers and researchers who are constantly working on the experience. But the design decisions are being driven by revenue, not by the user. So if adding another sponsored listing increases sales, it goes in. If a pop-up nudges hesitant buyers, it stays. The data says it works, so the chaos continues. And now the experience has become so layered, so patched together over the decades that rebuild it from scratch would cost more than it would ever save. Each team shipped their piece. Nobody owned the entire experience. And over time, the product became a product built in pieces by people who never talked to each other, almost impossible to undo. The reason why Amazon gets away with it is because they have something most startups do not. They have distribution, trust, and habit. People use Amazon despite the experience, not because of it. Most products do not have that luxury. When someone lands on your product and the experience feels inconsistent or confusing, they leave. They do not give you the benefit of the doubt. They just go somewhere else. So what does it actually cost you to skip design early? The first cost is rebuild. When you build without design thinking up front, you almost always end up rebuilding significant parts of your product later. Features that made sense in isolation do not connect properly. Navigation that worked for 10 screens breaks when you add 50. You end up doing twice the work because the foundation was not designed to scale. The second cost is churn. Users who cannot figure out how to use your product do not stay. They do not send you feedback telling you what was confusing. They just quietly stop using it. And the third cost is trust. A product that looks inconsistent, with buttons that behave differently in different places, with visual language that does not hold together, tells the user that you do not care about the details. And if you don't care about the details of the experience, why would they trust you with their data, their money, or their time? These costs are real. They're just invisible in the early stages, which is exactly why most founders do not catch them until it's too late. So going back to the main point, when should you hire a product designer? It's earlier than you think. The best time to work with a product designer is before you build anything. At the strategy state, when you're still trying to figure out what to build and for who. A product designer is not just someone who makes things look pretty. They're someone who helps you figure out what to build, who is it for, and how it should work before a single line of code is written. If you're a founder who is pre-product, bring in a designer now. The thinking you do before you build will save you months of rebuild later. If you're already building, bring in a designer before you launch, before real users encounter your product for the first time. First impressions are hard to recover from. If you have already launched and you're seeing high churn, low engagement, or conversion problems that your marketing is not solving, a product designer can help you diagnose what it is actually happened in the experience. So the short answer is, if you're building a product that real people need to use, design is not optional. It is not a phase you get to later. It is part of the process from the beginning. Thank you for watching and see you in the next one.